private gas station owner, and my gas tanks leak like that, the state is eventually gonna come in and say, you need to clean this up.
Right, yeah.
I'm gonna have to remove the tank, and from my knowledge, I'm going to have to pay for the excavation of all that dirt to be hauled away, taken and burned, my understanding, or
Well,
properly disposed
Yeah,
of.
it would go to a landfill.
Okay.
So
And then I have to bring in new soil to put in new tanks if I'm going to continue to operate, correct?
Well, that is, so that gets to the feasibility study portion of the report. So that is one of the options of the hybrid, where they said that you could dig some of this up to remove this source. I'm actually a big proponent of that, because getting out, you know, the source is I think a big advantage, because it just dries up the stream of what's potentially going on down the road. Now,
Technically, it's just sitting there like a cotton ball
yeah. and
that's
it's
soaked, and everything around it is absorbing it up slower than what we're anticipating, correct?
Well, yeah, that's a fair analogy, yeah.
Fair analogy.
Yeah.
But again, if I was a private gas station, the leak was detected, the contamination was found at this level, I would be forced.
No, you wouldn't be forced, and so that's an option. So what you do is that there are other, so one of the remedies is to put down what they call a soil vapor extraction system.
All right.
And so what that is, and I talked about it briefly, but you go down and you put in, instead of a monitor well where you're looking at groundwater, you put in that same screened well, but you put it in this area here, and you put a vacuum on it. Now it's sucking vapors out. So really, the only contaminant, the petroleum adheres to the edges of the soil, the sand, and because sand is quartz, it's not, it's basically impermeable, but it holds things through just these loose covalent bonding that happens around it. That's probably not the right term, but anyways, there's natural adhesion to the soil, from the soil particle to the contaminant. If you put a vacuum on because if I poured gasoline on the floor here, you'd see a puddle, but eventually it'd go away. Evaporate. And then you might still smell it. It's still in the room. It isn't.
That is enforced to allow it to go through.
Right. And so the same principle works with a vapor extraction system, where you could put a vacuum on that and you pull those vapors out. So we basically would put a big vacuum in this room. As this evaporates, we can suck the vapors out of this room, and the gas would be gone. And now they would treat this. They would run the vapors that come out of there. They would run it through a carbon filter system. Then it absorbs it onto the carbon, and then the carbon goes for disposal. And so that's one option that you have, instead of digging up a big hole. Some sites aren't conducive to doing that. Now this site, especially with the building being gone, I think it would be conducive, and that's one of my discussions that I'm going to have with them is, hey, why don't we look about removing the source?
Okay, next question I have regarding that. Just because you've been around for a while, 30 years you testified to or stated to, the cost of that right now, roughly.
Well,
my understanding, because I've looked into this, is about $400,000.
No, actually, it's part of the feasibility study here. They have it in this report. We can look at it.
That would be faster than the oxygen, right?
What's that?
It would work faster?
Each site is unique, and so you can go and cite literature and stuff and say, yeah, this is going to be the best thing, but it's I always look at proofs in the pudding. You put it in, and then you find out, oops, you know, and you adjust it because that's not working the way we thought it was gonna work. You know, there's lots of little variables that can, you can get biofouling occurring, which is if you have a lot of nutrient or minerals in the water. I mean, there's lots of things that, all right, so this is right here, this is the hybrid, of the, it's a little bigger. So this would be the enhanced bioremediation that they're proposing now, and then soil excavation. So they would go down and actually remove that big slug, that red hashed area out. And so they're estimating that to be $92,000.
The hash, just the red soil, that process we were talking about.
Well, to excavate the soil and then also put in these, what do we call this, enhanced oxygenation or bioremediation. And so that's that injection of oxygen in there, which creates a positive environment for the bacteria that breaks it down to do their thing.
This next question I have for you, is this a hazmat situation?
So if you're running if you're the guy that has to collect the soil sample at the bottom of the excavation, you know, to determine whether it's clean or not, and there's still vapors in there, then yeah, that's a hazmat situation. If you and I walked over there to right now, no. So it's.
I meant to clean up. I'm sorry, I should have been more precise. Is this considered hazmat?
So, I mean, there's some portions of, you know, so that an excavator either needs to be directed by, hazmat falls under OSHA, and there's specific requirements about workers, about supervisory positions, and then levels of training. So it really is complex, so it's hard to answer your question just saying yes or no, but so portions of it, yes, you would have to have the training.
I'll take that. All right.
Okay.